Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show without Defo. Just Lubie here on 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by the amazing people at Water Cleanup of Florida. We've talked about this for a while now. I'm not a big fan. Look, no one's a fan of issues at the home, but I'm someone that deals with anxiety issues, so issues at the home hit me pretty hard. It stresses me out. I can't stop thinking about it nonstop. But once I found out Water Cleanup of Florida was out there, it's made my life a lot easier just knowing they existed. Well, I got to put it to the test. We have an issue at our house, and some mold spots seem to be there. Call Water Cleanup of Florida. They talk about being able to reach them 24/7. They were not lying. I reached out to them super early in the morning, heard back from them that day. We made an appointment. They came out. They checked out the scene. They were very honest with me about what they were dealing with. They gave me somewhat of an estimate on the site. They then worked the numbers, gave me a true estimate, which was pretty close to the original estimate, which is cool. You don't always get that. Then they came out and they've done the work. Their people have been expeditious, efficient, genteel, and they've done a great job with both what the work they were doing on the home and their service. They've been in and out, and they have not really messed with our lives at all for the kind of issue we were having with our home. That's something you do not get in most cases with service establishment service organizations. You will get that with Water Cleanup of Florida. Again, with over 60 years of combined experience between Michael, Robert, and their team, they will look out for you and they will get the job done. Plus, with the licensed contractors, if you do need work done, okay, they will not only find the issue, they will get it done in an efficient fashion. And they've been everything they were cracked up to be. They've done it for me. They will do it for you. Just give them a call, 954-579-0356. 954-579-0356. Give them a call again 24/7. They'll help you out. Reach them on their website, WCUFL.com. WCUFL.com. If you mention 5 Reasons or Lubie, you will get a free inspection during business hours, and that inspection is extensive, and it will reveal a lot, and it will be very helpful for you, whether you go with Water Cleanup of Florida or not. Definitely mention Lubie or 5 Reasons, and you'll get that free inspection during business hours. Also, check them out on their socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Water Cleanup FL. Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. This is the Defo Show. No Defo, just Lubie here. Doing a lot of ranting. Don't you love my rantings? I did want to touch on NBA free agency a little bit, so we'll talk a little bit about that. As Donovan Mitchell, look, the Miami Heats were always big whale hunting, right? They're always looking for the big superstar. And right now, outside of Giannis, LeBron really isn't what he was. He doesn't have that much time left. He's like 37, 38, playing. You're thinking it's the next couple years he's going to be done, right? Kevin Durant is right in that spot where, he's older at 34, but he still should have 4 or 5 years left, at least 3 to 4 years at this level. So the fact that he wants to be traded, and he hasn't made a secret of that, he's been the biggest whale fish out there. So I don't mind the Heat trying to go after him. But to me, it's interesting the murmurs we're hearing about Donovan Mitchell, a guy with the Utah Jazz that has gone to the playoffs every year, even though they gave him, look, Rudy Gobert is an all-star. He's been an all-NBA player, but he's a throwback. He's a great defensive guy who rebounds and can dunk a ball, but has not grown his offensive game on any level. In a league where 7-footers are shooting threes, and it's Al Horford, 6'10", he's old, and now he's become like a three-point shooter. Because you have to expand the floor, you have to open the floor. The Warriors started it, and the Heat sort of were a forerunner of positionless, so everyone doing a lot of things. So a guy like Rudy Gobert, when it gets to playoff time, gets sort of phased out. And it's Donovan Mitchell's this monster. He's a super-duper athlete who can shoot pretty well and has taken a Utah Jazz team that really doesn't have that much else. Mike Conley's okay. To the playoffs every year, and I think they were up with a chance. They were up. They were up on the Clippers with a chance to go to the conference finals, and then lost to the Clippers. And Donovan Mitchell's frustrated, and he's been frustrated for a while because he's doing his job, but the organization's not. And look, it's not Utah's fault. Free agents aren't going to Utah. Your team players a lot of the time may want to leave because it's Utah. And when you're getting to the playoffs every year, you're not drafting super duper high, so it is hard to improve your team, improve the roster. But Mitchell's 25. He has 3 years left on this contract. But they now traded away Rudy Gobert. They now traded away Royce O'Neal, another decent piece that they had. And the Jazz came out and said, we're trying to build around Mitchell when all they're doing is bringing in draft picks. So to me, like the Heat world has been focused on Durant. I haven't, because I think you'd have to give up a hell of a lot to get Durant. And if you're giving up Bam, Hero, Robinson, and picks, look, Butler and KD is as good in 1-2 punch as we have in the NBA. Right now with Anthony Davis's injuries, it may be the best 1-2 in the NBA. But then you're depleting the roster, you know? To me, Donovan Mitchell is not Kevin Durant, but he's a superstar. He's a top 15 player in the world. And his only issue has been defense. Well, in Miami, we've seen guys get better at defense, and Miami's great at coaching up defense. And you wouldn't have to give up Bam, hopefully. So my focus has been on Donovan Mitchell. Well, yesterday, some reports, some murmurs came out. Mitchell talked with the organization, and the organization said, you know, we're doing what's best for us. Okay. That was very clear. They want him to think that they're trying to build around him. They're not. They're rebuilding. Like, Danny Ainge did this exact thing in Boston. He traded away Garnett, Pierce, Ray Allen, started from scratch, and went young. Got a lot of draft picks. And look, he did a good job. He built a team that has competed with they've drafted well, and that's fine. But then you're not, look, Mitchell's 25, and I get it. That's still young, right? So he could be a part of a rebuild, but he's not that 25. He's a guy that's been in the playoffs every year. He's a guy that sniffed the conference finals. He's a guy that wanted more help to really challenge for a title. And now you're telling him, when you do a rebuild, it takes 2 to 3 years. Like, the draft picks don't just, the NBA, they don't just play great right away. Look what the Grizzlies are winning pretty right away. And it still took, wasn't this, I think, Draw's third year? Like, or at least second year. And they still weren't going to win. Like, you knew that even with John Morant, they were going to lose to the Warriors. Like, you're not winning a title. So Mitchell, you're now going to be in year 4. And you're starting over, because it's going to take at least 2 to 3 years to rebuild. Okay, yeah, 28's not old. You're seeing Durant still contending at 34. But why would you want that? If you have a team like the Heat who wants you, who's winning now and always wins, they don't do the rebuilding thing. They try to win every year. Like, even when I thought they should rebuild and they should mail it in, they're like, no, we don't do that. We're going to win while rebuilding. And that's what they did. They literally went and got Jimmy Butler when there was no way in hell they should have been able to get Jimmy Butler, and went to a finals that year. And then 2 years later went back to the conference finals and we're sniffing the NBA finals. So to me, the Jazz are pretty clear what they're doing when it comes to Donovan Mitchell. The Heat have already offered a trade. Like, it came out last week that they had offered a trade, and then it came out in the last couple of days. The trade was what we thought. It was Hero, Robinson, and like draft picks. Which, if they're trying to get draft picks, Hero is a young dude who hasn't been a star, right? He's a young dude who you may be able to build around. Robinson has a big contract that can match Mitchell's contract. And Robinson is one of the top 3 or 4 3-point shooters in the league. You know, so he's a guy that you can now build a roster around, a roster with, not around, roster with your draft picks. You're going to suck, so you can now get your next Mitchell, your next Gobert, maybe even better. And to me, the hold off is Mitchell's not happy, but he hasn't asked for a trade yet. The word yesterday, Mitchell did a tweet. They bring you up to tear you down. I mean, I love these cryptic tweets you see from like athletes. Like, they're not subtle. It's trying to be subtle without being subtle. And everyone's like, what does that mean? Oh my God. You know what I meant. He's talking about the Jazz. He's pissed. Because the day before Tuesday it came out that Mitchell had talked to the organization and they said, look, we're doing what we can. We're doing what's best to win or whatever, which they're not. They're starting from scratch. They're rebuilding. It's literally what Ainge did. They just hired a 34-year-old coach. Like, a 34-year-old coach may be good, but he's not winning today. Like, it's going to take him time. Like, yeah, Udoka was in his first year, but Udoka was an assistant for a long time. Like, Udoka's in his 40s. Like, which isn't old, but it's not 34. Like, this dude is not winning tomorrow. So, like, they made it clear what they're doing, which is fine. You weren't look, Mitchell Gobert was not getting past the Warriors, was not getting past the healthy Nuggets, was not getting past the healthy Clippers, wasn't getting past the healthy Lakers. It wasn't getting past the Mavs. Like, you weren't going to win big with Mitchell and Gobert anyways. So I'm okay. It makes sense that you rebuild, especially since in Utah, unlike Miami where you can attract free agents, you're not attracting free agents. It's just not, the people aren't running to Utah. So, like, it actually makes sense for what they're doing, but if you're Mitchell, why would you stay? So it came out yesterday, he did his tweet, and then reports came out, Mitchell's not happy, duh. Mitchell is really frustrated, duh. And what the Heat's trade was, Mitchell is is now somewhat likely to go to the Heat. It's not a done deal, but what the Heat have done, Heat fans, I love you, you're frustrated. My dad's like, I'm worried about the Heat. I'm like, why? They were one shot away from the NBA Finals. They lost. Look, PJ Tucker it's funny because we love hard hustle guy, and I like that about us down here in Miami. Miami, the world of Miami is South Beach and sizzle and whatever, but Miami Heat basketball is not. Miami Heat basketball is tough, and we embrace tough, and I love that. But Spoelstra's new age. Spoelstra's positionless and scoring and beautiful basketball, so it's a great combo. You get the beauty and the artistry of the modern game, shooting threes, but you still have an intention of playing defense and playing old school. So it's the merging of both. And that's why when their culture's right, which it is now, the chemistry's right, they get on these streaks because these other teams don't have both. You saw the Celtics struggle to play. They played smart because Udoka did a really good job, but the chemistry wasn't always there. Where the Heat it was. So you don't want to mess with that. And Tucker fit right in. That's what they were missing last year that they had 2 years ago in Crowder. They lost Crowder last year. They didn't have either. And they struggled with intensity and toughness. Tucker brought that. So Tucker was important, and you wanted to keep Tucker. But the Heat were offering him 2 years, and I think it was less than $20 million. He got 3 years, 33. So not only he got more each year, he got an extra year at $11 million. So he got probably $12 to $15 more million to go to Philly. He couldn't do that. And he weren't going to do that. He's 37 right now, and he got hurt. He's banged up. The guy plays a physical brand of basketball, and he's older, and he's undersized. I'm not saying he's done now. You're not getting that third year. That third year, which the Heat did not want to give him, he's either not going to play at all or be useless, and it's guaranteed at $11 million a year. So the Heat, who P.J. Tucker made them good and made them really close to the finals, and they wanted to keep him, he's still a tertiary role player. Might be a starter at times, but he's not a star. If you can work the contract so that you can go get a Durant or Mitchell, you have to. So Heat fans are freaking out. Oh my God, what do we do? We haven't made a move. Yeah, there's a reason they haven't made a move. First of all, they brought back Oladipo, which I've talked about this week. People don't get that's huge. Yes, Oladipo's offense wasn't great, but his issue before this year, people thought he was done because of injuries. 2 full years he was hurt. Okay. Well, he didn't play all year this year. He comes in the playoffs and was their third best defensive player. He was. It was Butler, Tucker, then him. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Butler, Bam, then Oladipo. Even before Tucker, Oladipo was a better defensive player for the Heat than Tucker. Oladipo showed athleticism. He was able to get to the basket. He was making moves. So he looked healthy. Well, if you haven't played basketball in 3 years, your offensive game's going to suffer. So this is first healthy off season. Oladipo gets in the gym, and he's hungry. He wants to prove that the dude was an all-NBA player. This is 2 years ago. Or 3 years ago now. That was a huge signing, and they got him for nothing. And now the word comes out, they reworked the deal. It's not 1 year 11, it's 2 years, I think 18 or something. Each year's less money, and it's 2 years now. So you spread it out, so that gives them more money. Yeah, they go and re-sign Caleb Martin to a decent contract, but because they re-signed him now, they can trade him if they want to. And the way they worked out the salaries, they now have money and assets to put together a real deal for a Durant or a Mitchell. So to me, I love that they've not signed these TJ Warrens. So yeah, it'd be cool, but what are those guys going to do for you? So in the NBA offseason, which everyone loves, and especially the Miami Heat, and fans are freaking out, I'm first of all, they were one shot away from the NBA Finals. They're bringing back everyone, except for P.J. Tucker, but Oladipo now, with a healthy offseason, should be better than he was. So that gives you that toughness, that grit. You still have scoring possibilities. And Lowry is supposedly going to work on himself. So even if they don't make any moves, this team is a contender in the Eastern Conference /NBA. However, they're not doing all these things for nothing. And the Mitchell hubbub is real. And again, we've seen with the Heat, when it gets quiet is when things happen. You're hearing nothing from the Heat. You're not seeing them sign anyone. Look, a lot of people might not remember. The Heat weren't in it for Shaq. Shaq wanted to trade. Shaq wasn't happy. The whole Kobe thing. And there were a few teams that were discussed. The Heat weren't talked about at all. One day out of nowhere, the Heat trade for Shaquille O'Neal. Cool. Heat go to the conference finals. The Heat then, Udonis has them. There you go. The Heat go to the conference finals. Then the next year, the Heat win the NBA title. Cool. LeBron, that offseason was supposed to be, they were going to hopefully re-sign Dwayne Wade and possibly get Chris Bosh or Amari Stoudemire. Because they were good, but they needed something else to be a contender, to be good. Stephen A. throws out something about LeBron to Miami. I thought it was Chicago, New York, or he was going to stay in Cleveland. To me, he was probably going to stay in Cleveland. I really didn't think he would. Maybe New York, try and win in New York. They hadn't won. Out of nowhere, taking my talents to South Beach. So when the Heat made Jimmy Butler, the Heat, Even guys like Zach Lowe have actually respected the Heat. We're like, yeah, the Heat are fucked. They gave all this money to all these bad contracts. They don't have any young pieces anyone wants. They don't have draft picks because they hate draft picks. They're screwed. The Heat somehow convinced Jimmy Butler, nah, screw Philly. Come here. We'll build around you. Everyone thinks you're the third guy, maybe the second guy. No, you're a number one. You can be a number one on a contender. Come to Miami and we'll show you. And that's what they did. They got rid of all the bad contracts somehow, because Riley's great at that. They drafted well, with something they've never really done outside of Dwayne Wade. And they were in the NBA Finals that year. So they've done this. This is what the Heat do. So I'm really interested to see what happens. And Durant, to me, I think he's going to Phoenix. The Phoenix really wants him. He really wants to be there. And I didn't think about it, but if they can give up, they can give up Ayton. They can give up Bridges, who are really good players. Like, Bridges was as good, if not better, than Hero. And Ayton, who, yes, in the playoffs gets sized out, but that's two legit starters, if not guys that are borderline all-stars. And you don't have to give up Booker. The Heat to match that would have to give up Bam, and you don't want to give up Bam. Like, the whole point of getting a Durant is to have Durant, Bam, and Butler. Then you're the best team in the NBA. Then you can compete with the Warriors. Then you can win a title. You give up Bam, yeah, you're a contender in the East. You're not beating the Warriors. You're not beating the Nuggets. You're not beating the healthy Clippers. So, yeah. Well, that's what it was. They didn't give up any. Like, you're gonna have to give up draft picks. And I'm talking to Julian in the chat. Durant, you're gonna have to give up draft picks, and you're also gonna have to give up. They made it clear they want an all-star, at least an all-star. But, yeah, okay, Phoenix might not give up an all-star, but Bridges averaged 20-something and was in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. Like, he was like third in Defensive Player of the Year. So the dude can score and play defense. Ayton, until the playoffs, was really good this year. And he's a big. And if you can convince him to play some freaking defense and teach. Look, the guy is really good offensively, right? So why can't he go and shoot a three? Right? So to me, I thought that his package was better even without Bam. Now, unless you throw Bam in, you can't compete with Phoenix's package. And if you're Phoenix, you get Durant and get to keep CP3 and Booker. So you're right now the best team in the West, or you're right there with a healthy Warriors and a healthy Clippers. So I've almost accepted that KD's going to Phoenix, and not that I'm happy about it, but to me as a Heat fan, Mitchell's 9 years younger. Mitchell scores, passes, rebounds, and has shown he can play defense. He just sort of defense, right? Well, if you put him with a bunch of other dogs on defense, he's going to play defense. And you don't have to give a Bam. So you could have, if they can make it happen. Again, Mitchell has to want out. But if you're Miami, you then have Jimmy Butler, who's now a top 10 player in the NBA. Like, what he does in the playoffs, the only guy better the last couple years is LeBron and Giannis in the playoffs. Like, Jimmy Butler is as good a playoff player as we've seen. And then the regular season, he's great too. So Jimmy Butler is a top 10 player. Cool. You have Bam, one of the best big men in the game. All right, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and is really good offensively. Just has to become more aggressive, and they're already working on it. You have Tyler. You would give up Hero. You'd give up Robinson. You give up picks to get Donovan Mitchell, but you would still have Lowry. But now Lowry's still your third or fourth dude. You have Oladipo, who's hungry, still young, now healthy. Will have a full off season to work on his offense, and then you had Donovan Mitchell, one of the top 15 players in the game. Like, to me, you're scary. And you didn't have to give up Bam, and he's younger. And now you're going younger, because that's the problem with getting a Durant. Durant's 34. So now you're having 35? Jimmy Butler, 32, 33. But his body, because of how physical he plays and playing in Chicago and being physical in Minnesota and Philadelphia now with the Heat, like, he's old. He's older. He still can play. He's now actually in his prime. This is the best he's ever played. But you have a 34-year-old Durant. You're now going from a young and old build to old. You get Mitchell. He's 25. Oladipo, you probably would have to eventually lose an Oladipo, but you now have Bam and Mitchell for now and for your next build-out. And Bam isn't Gobert. Bam averaged 19 and 10 last year. Like, Bam is a guy that can shoot a jumper. Bam's a guy that can put on the floor. Bam's a guy that can pass. Bam's a modern-day big. Bam's a guy who's 6'8", 6'9", but can defend fives and can also defend ones. He can literally defend 1 through 5. He's the best defensive player in basketball right now, because it's not just on the ball. He's good off the ball. He can do it all. And he has offensive talent. We saw him go for like almost 40 in the conference finals. He's just not aggressive, but they're working on that now. So to me, if it's the consolation of Donovan Mitchell, that's a win. Now, it hasn't happened yet. The Jazz, are pussyfooting around. But the growing frustration from Donovan Mitchell makes it feel like in the coming days it'll happen. And I think that's a win for the Heat. And I think that's a loss for the rest of the league. So we talked a little bit of Miami Heat as we like our Heat. And yes, it's the offseason. But look, with Pat Riley, Erik Spoelstra, Andy Ellisberg, Nick Arison, that crew over there with the Miami Heat, even in the offseason, we have a lot of fun as they went on the court. And they always try to make acquisitions to improve in the offseason. Excited for what we've heard so far. Love that they were able to keep Caleb Martin, able to keep Oladipo. And the big whales in Kevin Durant and Donovan Mitchell still looming. We shall see. Again, like I said, I think Durant feels like more of a Phoenix move, which is fine to me. I would focus on Donovan Mitchell. He isn't happy. He doesn't want to be there. And he's made it clear, whether it be Fat Joe or his pictures or his statements on social media and his friendship with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, that he wants to be in Miami. So that combination, plus the fact that he would want out, plus the fact that they want Young in Utah, you should be able to get him and not give up a Bam Adebayo, meaning you'd have all-star caliber player, Bam Adebayo. Top 10 player, Jimmy Butler. Top 15 player, Donovan Mitchell. Oladipo, who is an all-star caliber player when healthy, and from what we saw in the playoffs, he looked healthy. Kyle Lowry, who, looked old, but has been an all-star caliber player up until the last year or so. That gives you 5 all-star caliber players, something no one else in the league has. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Heat do to... Look, the free agency just started, and people are always like, oh, they've done nothing. Well, first of all, they kept guys they need to keep. They lost P.J. Tucker, but Oladipo, if he has this full healthy off-season like we think he should have, then you get even though he played in the playoffs, he didn't play all year, that's a gain. That's a plus. Also, they've now worked contracts so that they can go make a big move. And we know with the Heat, usually once it gets quiet, that's when they pounce. So we'll see what happens with the Heat in the coming days. If you want to check me out tomorrow, it is a Degenerate Friday on our morning show on South Florida Live. You can Google, you can YouTube, Facebook, South Florida Live, or at SoFly Live, or on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at SoFly Live. Check us out on our national podcast. Yesterday, talked with Dulce Sloan and Josh Johnson from The Daily Show. Also, they have their new podcast, Hold Up. They were a really fun conversation on our national podcast network show, the Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And each and every day, our South Florida content right here on your home for South Florida sports. The 5 Reasons Sports Network. This is the Defo Show. No Defo, just Lubie once again here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.